Hello, thank you for joining me. Today I will be putting rocks in resin. I will be making a coaster using the small coaster mold that's got the rim on it. Other materials that I'll be using are the J. Diction High Gloss Epoxy Resin. It is a 1-to-1. Two different resin pigments. I have aquamarine and fluoride. A mother of pearl resin powder. I have some small rocks that I gathered, washed, and once they dried, put them in the bag for project use. And a purple cross that I poured. It's a resin cross that I poured using the purple mica. Now I do call this like a 3-phase project because there's going to be 3 different pours and wait time in between each of those pours. So let me go ahead and get some resin mixed up and we will get this project started. So we're ready to start this pour. And the first thing I want to do is I do want to try and get it in the rim. Now if it gets a little outside of the rim, that's fine because we are going to end up putting a thin layer of resin for this first layer. Let me go ahead and give it a check for bubbles. Just around the rim there where they like to get trapped. All right, let me wipe that off. And then when I pour the rocks, I like to put them in one of these little plastic cups. It just makes it a lot easier for me to control. So let me get those poured. Put that down there. And I work on sprinkling the rocks around the edges. Now, if you get it off the edge, it's not a big deal because you can scooch it back on there, and I will. Because as you can see, I don't do a very good job of getting them where I want them. But that's not a big deal because we can just use the dotting tool, the other end of the dotting tool, and put the rocks on the edges and kind of squish them down into that rim, but not a great deal of force because we want to make sure that there's no raw edges of rocks sticking out of your coaster when you're finished. Now this particular coaster I'm actually making for someone, and I know for myself and probably most, if not all crafters, when you have a particular person in mind that you're working, that you want to do a project for, that from start to finish, from the design or the idea through the whole project, regardless of how big or small the project is that you think about that person that you're making the item for. I know that I do. Let's see if we can't get those in there a little bit better. We don't want it to overflow on the top, so I don't want to force it too hard. Boy, I just scattered those babies everywhere, didn't I? And I mean, if I start seeing little blank spots, I will add some more rocks to it. But we still have one little spot that I do want to add rocks to. But let me go ahead and get that in there. See if they're going to behave for me. Because I actually want to add some rocks like right down in here. So let me go ahead and scooch those down. See a spot there. So yeah, any little blank spots that you see. Alright, well I will fiddle with those rocks here in just a minute because I actually do want to add some more. That's pretty good for now. So I'm going to add just a few more, and I'm going to actually add them down bottom here. And I do want to say that, you know, this coaster, we're doing everything in reverse. The bottom of this mold is the top of the coaster and vice versa. So let me go ahead and add some rocks down in here. Oops. And throw a few around while I'm at it. Pick those up and put those in there. Right. I just want to make sure those rocks are where I want them at. I see a little spot here. Let me put this down. I think that'll be enough rocks. The next thing I want to do is I want to try to swim, if you will, this cross in there because I don't want bubbles underneath it. But I also give it a tap tap several times, as a matter of fact, just to try to release any bubbles that may get up underneath there as I'm placing it. Let me put some of those rocks there. I mean, you can do as many or as few rocks as you want. Scooch some of those down, and I see a fuzz. Make sure my cross is hopefully straight in there. Now, if I add more, I have found out if I add any more resin to this right now, the cross will start floating. I don't want it to float. So what I will do is I will let this set probably between 2 and 3 hours. It just depends. I mean, I will come and check it for bubbles. I will come and check it to see how thick it's getting, because I don't want to add the next layer until I know that they won't get mixed up. And I don't want that cross to float on me. So that's the first phase. And once it starts to cure enough that I can get that bubble out, cure enough that I can pour some more resin on it, I'll be back and we'll do that. The resin is sticky enough that I can go ahead and do the second pour. And what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to go ahead and pour some clear resin in both of these little cups. And this is where I will be mixing the resin pigment. So let me put a little bit of this in here. Some in here. And as I mix this, a couple of things. One thing for sure is I want to make sure that it's translucent. I don't want it to be opaque. Let me get that cleaned off and we will start mixing. And I am going to be mixing more of the aquamarine than I am the fluoride. So let's give this a little shake. And I'm just going to just one drop at a time because I don't want to mix it too dark. I'd rather add little by little than add too much and not be able to take it out. So I think I want that just a little bit darker. So let me add one more drop. And that should do it. I want to make sure I get that mixed in there real well. I grabbed the wrong end of that stick. So I'm going to have to get the sticky off my gloves. But I think that that's about as dark as I want that. Sticky off the stick and my glove. All right, and on the floor, it'll probably just be one drop simply because I don't have near as much resin in that cup. Let's go ahead and give it a little mix and see what we have. The fluoride kind of reminds me of kind of like a green blue type color. Yeah, I may add just one more drop. Because if I do get it a little too dark, I can just add a little bit more resin. The clear resin. I think that'll do. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start at the bottom of the coaster. I'm going to pour the fluoride at the bottom, the aquamarine at the top, and then clear down the center. What I do want to do is make sure I leave enough room in this mold to pour the last, the bottom of the mold, which is going to be the mother of pearl. So I don't want to fill the mold up. I want to make sure I do leave some room. So let's go ahead and start with the fluoride. And I actually pour it down in the rocks and in that, just the bottom area, as though if it were grass is what I think about, the grass growing. And now I'm going to add the blue, or the aquamarine, to the top. And then pour some clear right down the middle. Again, making sure I save room for that last pour. It looks like I may be able to add a little bit more over here. And then I take, you can use a toothpick, you could probably use a dotting tool. I just take this little tool, and even though it does not look like blades of grass when I'm done, in my imagination, that's what I'm drawing. And up top, I just try and swirl it around, almost like blue sky and clouds. Looks like I have some bubbles I need to get rid of. Let me see if I can do that. Without touching my mold. I don't want to burn my mold. And now it's time to just, let it cure some more, probably 2 to 3 hours before we put our final layer of resin on there, and that will be with the mother of pearl. Now I will check this every few minutes for bubbles, and I like to try to swirl the colors around a little bit until, of course, the resin gets too thick to do that. So we're going to let this cure for a few more hours, or for a few hours, and then when we're ready to pour the mother of pearl, we'll be back. The resin appears to be tacky enough now that I should be able to put that last coat of resin on there. And this is going to be the mother of pearl resin powder. So let's go ahead and get some mixed up and try not to get it everywhere. And I'm just going to put in a little at a time until I know exactly how much I need. I'd rather too little than too much. Let me use that other stick to stir. Now with the mica powder, you have to really make sure that you're stirring it well. Let me go ahead and add just a little bit more to that. And that should hopefully be enough. Oh, don't spill. There we go. How well you can see that. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it set for a minute in case there's any dry powder still in there. And while I'm letting that sit, I'll just clean up some of my mess. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that, but a lot of dry powder floated up to the top. And we don't want that to happen when we're pouring our coaster. Let's let some of those bubbles settle down and see if any more floats up. And there are times I think I have it all, and then I make a pour, and when it cures, you can see the little specks of dry mica. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and pour this and try to get a good dome without overflowing. Let me stop there for a second, see what we've got. Looks like it'll hold a little bit more. I better stop there because I'm afraid I'm going to make it overflow. And what I will do is, check this for bubbles every 10 to 15 minutes. It does need to cure for 24 hours. So I will see you back here for the unmolding. It's been 24 hours. So let's go ahead and get this coaster unmolded and see what we end up with. Let's see if we can get this off. Oh wow, I'm not sure what happened here with the swirls. I'm of the opinion it kind of looks cool. I just don't know what happened with it. But as you can see, the rocks, they just look really pretty in there. And I don't know if you can see the little nubs here, but I've learned to take an X-Acto knife and cut those off before this resin cures too hard. But that's the way that one turned out. And I will come back later and top coat it. The very first time I tried this idea, I actually didn't put a background at all. And it looked great in the mold because you have the white background. It doesn't look bad, but depending on what you're setting it on, I mean, like on the blue, it's great. But if you're setting on some other something, I'm not too sure how it would look. What I may want to do is in the future, I've thought about using like orange, red, yellow, and instead of the blue for the sky, making it look more like a sunset or a sunrise. And here's one that I made, and what happened with this one, and I mean, to me it was a happy accident. I had poured the back on and it wasn't quite domed. So I mixed and poured more of the mother of pearl. And if you look in there, it actually kind of looks like a bunch of clouds, fluffy little clouds. So I like the way that one turned out. And overall, I'm not disappointed with this. This may be where I went in to try to fish a fuzz or something out. I'm not too sure what happened there. So I hope that watching this project, I hope that it has inspired you. Maybe sparked those creative juices. Let me know in the comments below. Also, please consider hitting the like, subscribe, and share buttons. And I hope you can join me for my next video. In my next video, a resin snow globe, I'm going to once again attempt to suspend objects in a sphere. And hopefully it'll go better than the first time around, which actually took me 4 tries. So I look forward to seeing you then. I want to thank you for watching the video and for joining me through this project, and tell you to have a nice day. Thank you so much.